Hi everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Catholic Table Talk Podcast, where the podcast where everything Catholic is on the table. I'm your host, William Sauber, and thank you again for subscribing, liking, and sharing Catholic Table Talk. We are growing at a fast rate, so thank you for that. If you have a speaker or show request, please email us at catholic2tstt@gmail.com. And now we are on location at one of my parishes here in my area, and my guest asked if he could come on the show. I said, of course you can. We have been friends for a long time. I'm happy to have him. His name is Jay Tyrell, and Jay, thank you for coming on.
Thank you for having me, Billy.
And it was a rough start, but we're firing away, and we're going to get through this, God willing. So, So, I always, when a speaker comes on the show, Jay, I always tell them, it's on you. You can come up with a topic, whatever you want to talk about, and you came up with a few of them.
Several of them.
Several of them, yeah, that's a good way of putting it. So I'm really excited about these. And first of all, you want to talk about just close to our home, our parishes here, including this one we're in right now. So you can fire away at it.
Sure. Well, yeah, we're at Sacred Heart Church here. For those of you who don't know, we're actually down in the basement. Sacred Heart's gone through quite a few changes here recently. The main one is we became part of an 8-church cluster. Several years ago, the church seen a problem that was going to be coming up where we would be losing one of our priests, and so there was a committee formed, and they decided to have 2 priests covering 8 churches. I was not on the committee. I have some good friends that were and or are, and this was a real challenge to come up with how do you cover 8 churches with 2 priests. Basically, the best way to keep everyone happy and keep a priest for every church was to have every church go down to 1 mass. Okay,
Which is a struggle.
Which is a struggle, yes. If you think of that, each priest does 4 masses every weekend. And like Father Aaron said, if you don't think that's hard, go sit through 4 masses in a weekend and you will see it is rather difficult. Then sprinkle a few funerals and a few weddings in there, and it's a real challenge. But now we're about 6-8 months, possibly even a year into that. It has gone very, very well. One of the beauties of that is the 8 churches are closer connected. I know I have gone to church in other towns where I normally wouldn't go to church. Our bulletin actually needs chapters in it now, but when you flip through it, you know what's going on in other churches.
Right.
And there's good people there too that have fun events going on, and we've tied into some of them. So the 8, we call it Mary Mother of the Church, our ACC cluster, has really turned out to be a blessing. Because like I said, we've tied in with some other churches and got to do some fun things with them. Our priests get a good workout. They're definitely earning their money. And if they ever take a vacation, I feel a little sorry for their substitutes.
Right.
But it has gone very, very well. And Father Aaron is the lead pastor, and Father Gabriel has become like the vicar. And it's gone very well. Father Aaron has a unique leadership style that I think people like and respect.
He does.
And it's gone very well. Recently, we had a State of the ACC meeting over in Wadena. Did you have a chance to attend that?
I did not, no.
Okay. At last minute, I decided to go to it. It was excellent. I think it should have been mandatory for all the church council people. It was excellent. Father Aaron, Father Gabriel, and Deacon Randy laid out their vision for the future, what they want for the churches, get us all on the same page as far as how we track our finances, our religious ed programs, fundraising versus stewardship, explain some of the differences with that. And it was interesting. I walked out of there pretty excited about my church and where it's going and the vision that the priests have. So.
Well, that's always a good thing to have.
That's right. That's
BSA.
right. It was not a dull, boring meeting where they just crunched numbers. It was not that at all.
Right.
And like I said, it's good to have a good, strong leader that says, we are going this way.
Yeah.
And I'm going to need some help, and I need some volunteers, and of course people step up and respond to a good, strong leader.
Right. It's a lot more easier to follow.
Yeah,
It is.
exactly.
Now, you mentioned a lot that this change has gone so well, and may I just add, can I just ask your opinion of why you think it's going so well? Because I think it was going so well just because I think a lot of parishioners have really adapted to being on one mass a weekend.
Mm-hmm.
There has been some arguments about which mass should go where.
Mm-hmm.
But for the most part, at least what I've been hearing, now you have more sources than I do, but what I've been hearing is it's been going okay. So, but you keep saying it's been going good. So, why do you think it's been going good?
Well, I think to faithful people, I always go back to my oldest sister lives over in the New York Mills area, and they went to church in Butler.
Okay.
I believe it's Holy Cross in Butler. And at one time, they had a Saturday afternoon mass at 4 o'clock. Now you think, oh my gosh, that is going to be so inconvenient. It's going to be so hard to make it. That's not how they looked at it. They said, mass is the priority, and it's at 4 o'clock, and we're going to be there. And then you build the rest of your day and the rest of your weekend around that. And it really turned out to be a wonderful thing. You get cleaned up about 3 o'clock, you go to mass at 4 o'clock, hey, 5 o'clock, you're done with mass, it's Saturday evening, let's go out to dinner and enjoy the rest of our evening, and you can sleep in on Sunday morning. If mass is the priority, it really shouldn't matter what time it's at.
Right.
Now, I'm a little spoiled. I'm an 8:30, 9 o'clock Sunday morning mass guy. I like that. We got to keep our 8:30 Sunday morning mass. But we've gone to mass in Bluegrass at 7 p.m. We've been to mass over in Motley at 10:30 a.m. You just, whatever time the mass is at, that's the priority. And then you build the rest of your week and run. And then it's not really a problem. Now I get it. Family things come up and events that you had scheduled come up. But if you know far enough in advance, you can work around that.
Right.
So I think the people have figured out that that's the way to make it work. Whatever our mass time is, it is, and we're going to work around that. And then, like a good friend of mine, Andrew Freiholt, he said, for someone to jump in a car and drive 25, 30 miles to go to mass in some of their towns at a time works is not a big deal anymore.
No.
People drive a half hour, an hour, hour and a half to go to work every day and really don't think much about it. The culture's changed. And I thought that was a good point. That was a good point. So that's why I think it's worked. People, the choice was either adjust your mass times or your church doesn't get a mass at all.
Right.
Which is a horrible option, because once you close a church, it's very hard to get it back open again.
Right.
Yeah. So every church got to have at least one mass, which I think is good. Everybody sacrificed a little bit, and we all gained.
Right. No, I appreciate you giving your opinion on it, and I would have to agree with that. When I'm at college down in Wilmore, it's okay. It's either 4:30 we're going, or it's 5 o'clock. And then we decide Saturday morning we're going at 5. Okay, and then plan around it. We're gonna go out to eat afterwards, have a good time, but we're going to church at 5.
Right.
So, yeah, and even here, it's like, what do we want to do? We want to go to church at 5, or we want to go to church at 7? Let's go to church at 7. Okay, we can plan the rest of the weekend around it.
That's
so
right.
I do have to agree with that.
Set the mass time first.
Exactly, because otherwise you're not really obeying the first commandment if you don't put God first. So, that's one way. That's one way you're looking at. Yeah, were you gonna say something?
Nope. I was just gonna say, yeah. That's that's exactly it. And people, it takes them a bit to adjust, but once they've adjusted, like I said, it's kind of funny. But our bulletin, I think, is 6 or 8 pages.
It is.
Which the first time I grabbed it, I'm like, wow, this thing should have chapters and a glossary.
Yeah,
But you read through it and you find out what's going on in Verndale, and you find out what's going on in Wadena and Bluegrass and whatever town, and it's interesting.
Right.
It's interesting. So anyway, yeah, go ahead.
So now to move on to the next topic, and it's religious ag you want to talk about. And I've been a part of the religious ed here, kind of moved on, kind of went away from, because got older, graduating and stuff. But how is religious ed doing, and what are they doing for the 8 parishes?
Well, I'll speak for Sacred Heart Religious Ed program.
Sure.
We've had a change in our religious ed director. The new gal, Nikki Fink, has done a great job. I've been teaching religious ed here for about 14 years. I took a few years off, but they invited me back now.
Nice.
And they gave me 9th grade boys, which I got a feeling they gave me 9th grade boys because nobody else wanted them. Well, you know what? They missed out, because that's the best bunch of 9th grade boys you could ever ask for. They're very good.
They heard that you were coming back, so.
I don't know if that's it. So here's what's interesting. Our religious ed director basically sat us down at a meeting a week in advance and kind of said, here's some stuff that you guys can work with, but you know what you're doing. Teach your faith. Share your faith story. And honestly, in this day and age, lots of times you just go to YouTube and you find a video and you click play. We're going through a series done by Father Michael Schmitz. It's excellent. They're 6 to 12 minutes long. That usually gives us enough information to discuss for about a half hour or an hour. And embracing what the internet has to offer, there's enough good Catholic stuff on there you can find to keep 9th grade boys interested.
Right.
And once in a while we do watch snowmobile racing and tractor pull failures and some of that kind of stuff to mix it up. But it's a great bunch of boys I got. They ask good, thoughtful questions. And then at the end of our Wednesday night religious ed, well, I should back up. One thing they did different is sports in school end up presenting a real challenge with religious ed. So what they've done is they switched the time from 7:30 to 6 o'clock. So kids can get out of sports at 5:30, come right over here, and if they're here at 6 o'clock, we'll feed them. What a novel idea. You want teenagers to show up, you feed them a meal. Okay?
Sounds good. Yeah.
So from 6 to 6:30, we feed them. At 6:30, we go upstairs, and there's a quick little prayer where we're all together. And this is basically from first grade all the way to seniors. Everyone's together.
Really?
Yep.
All of them now.
Yep. Couple of announcements, couple quick prayers, and then we break up and go to our rooms. And then they decided to separate the boys and girls. And that's good.
Right.
When they're teenagers, you get much better discussion if the boys are with the boys and the girls are with the girls. And our boys, I said from the first night, pretty much any topic you want to discuss, we can hash out here. Or I should say, any question you have, we'll discuss here, and we'll try to view the answer through the eyes of the church. Okay, and we touch on all of them. We talk about money, we talk about sex, we talk about evil in the world, we talk about war, we discuss all. Always trying to view it from the church's perspective.
Right.
And these young men come up with some pretty good questions. I wouldn't say they've stumped me yet, and I had to go run into Father Aaron or Father Gabriel, but I have had to think pretty hard before I answered. And yeah, it's a lot of fun. I look forward to Wednesday nights. And our program, we're not really reinventing the wheel. It's all there. Most of the information I get is off YouTube. I mean, Father Michael Schmitz has got a huge following.
Yeah.
He connects with young people, and yeah, you just basically find a video and click play. There's a book we follow. It's got a couple good questions that start conversation. But usually the conversation, once it gets rolling, the boys are asking, kind of answering their own questions and picking each other apart, and it really makes for a fun time. But then 10 minutes before we're done, everybody gets back together and we say one decade of the rosary.
Nice.
And you think, teenagers saying a decade of the rosary. Nobody complains. Nobody complains. Nobody moans and groans. The kids that are connected with the church already respect it. The kids that don't have the opportunity to get the Mass every weekend and aren't really connected with the church, just kind of come because they have to, they seem to respect it as well. It's something very different that they do here than they do anywhere else in their lives.
Right.
And at first I wasn't sure how that was going to go, but it's a nice way to wrap up the evening. So To sum it up, I'd say our religious ed program is going very, very well. It is good to show up at 6 o'clock on Wednesday evening and see this church basement almost full.
Nice.
You've got kids, you've got older kids sitting with younger kids, you've got parents, because if the parents come, we'll feed them too.
Okay.
Now, I don't cook, so it's easy for me to say that, but I see parents in the church basement that don't step foot in a church a whole lot, and that's good.
That is good.
I mean, that's kind of that's kind of a nice benefit to the religious ed program that no one would have thought of. You know, I've seen parents show up, like I said, that I don't see in church very often. So I'd say the religious ed on a scale of 1 to 10 right now is at about a 10. They're planning on some fundraising and stuff, and if you were at the State of the ACC meeting, you can see he wants to do away with fundraising and focus more on stewardship. So basically, any kid that wants to go to any event, Steubenville, NCYC, there's money there. There's never, we don't have the money for an excuse. There's money there set aside. And
That's huge.
oh, that's
I mean,
huge.
that-
That's
yeah.
huge because that's usually the first excuse they have why they don't want to go.
No.
And these events are life-changing experiences because many times kids just think the Catholic Church is what they see here at Sacred Heart. Well, if you've ever been to NCYC and Steubenville or
Yeah.
NCYC, if you've ever seen 25,000 screaming, hollering Catholic kids excited for their faith with their cell phones in the air with the light turned on, waving them back and forth, you're going to go like, wow, this is a lot bigger than just me. So kids need to experience that. Like I said, especially kids that don't always get an opportunity to come to church a whole lot and don't necessarily understand what the faith is about.
Right.
So, yeah, so religious ed is going very, very well. We got a little break coming up here because of spring break,
Sure.
and then we'll be back at it in full force and looking forward to Easter,
Yeah.
Holy Week and
it's-
Easter.
It's coming.
Yep.
But I do have to say that it is life changing. I've never been to the NCYC before. I've been to Steubenville once, and then Castaway Retreat
Mm-hmm.
a couple times, and those have been life changing, especially Steubenville. I should do a show about it, about life changing. I really actually should.
Yep.
But it's really great because they get to help out families who don't get to go otherwise.
Right.
And,
Right.
and that's what we should be doing.
These things aren't cheap to go to.
No.
And a friend of mine said, Steubenville is 3.5 hours, 4 hours away in Rochester, which is great. NCYC is about 12 hours away, a bit more of a commitment. You get on a bus. A friend of mine told me part of the experience is the journey there and the journey back. It's not fun sleeping on a bus.
Right.
You get there, you're tired, you're bumping into people, you're sick of being around them, and it just, part of it, it's a bit of a pilgrimage, and then you get there. I've kind of been told NCYC is kind of like fishing with a net. You're trying to catch everybody, whereas Steubenville might be more of like a fishing pole. All right,
Sure.
it's a little more pointed, a little more devout. NCYC, I think there's a little louder music and a little heavier
bet.
rock bands and stuff like that. But
Right.
still, what a great experience to go to each one. Yeah.
It is.
So.
Well, it's really good because, like I said, I've been out of the faith formation for a while, so it's good to know that it's in good hands and
It's very
going-
good hands. Very good
Mm.
hands.
And thank you for saying yes and coming back. I'm sure they're happy to have you back. So.
I feel a little guilty because I get as much out of it as the kids do. When I am listening to Catholic Talk Radio, which is a segue into our next topic here, I'm listening, going, "Oh, I can't wait to share it with my kids." Or if I hear Father Aaron say something to Mass, "Hey guys, did you hear what Father Aaron said last weekend?" I listen with a different kind of ear because I'll get to pass it on to the kids. And it's many times I say, "Yeah, we heard that. What did he mean?" And then, of course, I got to go into an answer, and hopefully I've got one.
Right.
But no, it's going very well. I'm pretty happy about it. Nikki's doing a great job.
Well, that's good.
You bet.
So, and like you said, we'll talk about the Way Hotel next. Just one quick question: do you assign them like any homework? Like, listen to the Catholic network this week because such and such is going to happen or anything like that? Or?
Yeah, I give them some really heavy homework. 1 week I said, guys, your job is to go home and give your mother a hug.
That's good.
And then I followed up with them. And then the next week they had to go home and tell their mother that they loved them or they loved her.
Right.
And followed up with them. And, oh, man, it was interesting the answers we got. So, no, I haven't asked them if they tuned into the Catholic radio tower yet, but that'd probably be a good one. Turn off TikTok and turn on Catholic Talk Radio. So,
Yep,
yeah, that's a good one. I'll have to remember that.
So that would be the next segment. Would be the Catholic radio tower, which diocese believe, right? Diocese bought.
Yes.
Okay. So I've seen the tower before in Vorndale. And then all of a sudden, by you came up and you said, we actually bought it. I'm like, really? And then I found out what station, and once I'm up here, then I can listen to it.
Mm-hmm.
But, so it's Revelant Radio. I really like Father Walkie. All the great hosts on there. So, when you said there was lots of problems with trying to get and trying to make it happen. Now, nothing is easy when it comes to buying a radio tower or getting it working. So, what really happened behind there?
I'll try to give you the story quickly.
Sure.
So, KS came on the air down in St. Cloud, I'm thinking about 10, 12 years or so ago, and the AM signal, 1180 AM, would broadcast to about Motley. Then the signal would kind of quit.
Right.
Okay? About that same time, Father Aaron over on Wadena was trying to buy the Verndale Tower and broadcast a station out of Fargo called Real Presence Radio. At the time, the bishop said, no, if we're going to broadcast a radio station in Verndale, we want it to be the station that our diocese owns, which is KS. So Bishop had a valid point. So at the time, KS wasn't ready to expand up to Verndale.
Okay.
So that was about 6-8 years ago, if I'm not mistaken. But Father Aaron really gets the credit for spearheading this thing and really saying, let's try to do this. So then some people in Perm put a little tower on the steeple of their church that covers about a 10-mile radius, and they were able to pull in relevant radio from St. Cloud. They basically bought a signal and through the internet broadcast it. And around a 10-mile radius around Perm, you could actually pull that signal in. So if you can picture this, you could get Catholic Talk Radio from Perm to about New York Mills, and then there was a dead spot from New York Mills to about Motley. Okay. And from about Park Rapids down to about Browerville. Okay, if you can picture this, okay? So 5-6 years ago, we looked at purchasing that tower. KS out of St. Cloud was going to purchase the radio tower in Verndale, and the owner of it, who was interested in selling it, wanted a very large price for it. We just said, no, we cannot make the numbers work for that. So then we just kind of left it set for a while, and there was talks back and forth until approximately 6-8 months ago, the owner said, hey, I'm ready to sell. Let's sit down. And honestly, he about cut his price in half from where he originally started. So we could make that work. So remember, the area that was not covered was from about New York Mills to Motley and Park Rapids to about Browerville. Almost the exact same size as our ACC Mary Mother of the Church cluster.
Right.
Okay?
Yeah.
So almost at the same time our cluster organized became the ACC, we were able to get the signal on the air off the tower in Verndale, which is 1070 AM and 101.3 FM. From Verndale, the FM signal will carry out about a 25-mile radius is about all it goes. The AM signal 1070 is incredible. That'll push out there just about 100 miles during the daytime. Okay. At night, they turn it down because of airplanes or some aeronautical reason. I'm not exactly sure.
Sure.
But during the day, I can catch 1070 on the other side of Aiken, and I can catch it on the other side of Fargo. So myself personally, I've gained a whole new respect for AM radio. I drive around for a living and really enjoy it. Really, really enjoy it. Unfortunately, on radio, we don't have a number of how many people are actually listening. They can't tell who's pulling the signal in and who's not.
Right.
Just when pledge time comes around, they can tell kind of where the money's coming in from. But it's excellent. I find that's pretty much the only station I have on in my vehicles driving around. You always catch a little nugget of one of the talk shows on there or whatever. I find the Divine Mercy Chaplet at 3 o'clock in the afternoon absolutely wonderful.
That is.
Boy, if you think you got some challenges in your life, just listening to Divine Mercy Chaplet at 3 o'clock. There's some people really going through some challenges. And then the Rosary Across America at 7 o'clock, and then followed by the Mass at 7:30. It's nice to be in the garage working and listen to the Mass.
Right.
It's just, even though I'm doing something with my hands, just listening to the readings and a little homily, and then listening to the Mass and the spiritual communion deal and this and that, it's so much better than country music or pop music or whatever, or even classical. It's just, and then the talk shows, you always learn something.
Yep.
I mean, current events that are going on are very challenging and hard to decipher what's what. I believe that through the Catholic lens, we have a pretty good perspective on what's going on in the world. What they say, there's 256 correspondents from around the world at the Vatican to kind of report in. I gotta believe they got a pretty good idea what the cultures or what's going on in the world.
Right.
And I know last night I was in the garage till 10:30 listening to Drew Mariani talk about Ukraine, and that's on the front of everybody's mind, and both sides of that, and how should the church react? What should we do as Christians? Of course, the best thing we can do is pray for those people and pray for the leaders.
Right.
But you don't really hear that anywhere else. You don't hear it anywhere else.
No.
You hear a one-sided deal. I used to be a big talk radio listener back in the 90s and early 2000s, and it's good. I just don't really want that perspective anymore, because I can probably predict kind of what they're going to say and what they're going to say about it.
Right.
I'd like to hear a Catholic perspective, because the leadership of our church is overseeing 1.3 billion people. I'd like to know his opinion on this,
Right.
and what he thinks.
That's true.
There's good people in Russia. There's good people in Ukraine. Let's take a look at it.
Right. I would have to agree with you on the talk shows, just because I would listen to a lot of sports talk as well, and I listen to it a lot in the morning, and then if I'm driving, I don't listen to Catholic Way all the time, so
why not?
I don't know. That's what I'm trying to get better at this life. But I listen to sports talk a lot. But yeah, you can kind of see what they're going to say, and it kind of gets old over a certain period of time. But if you listen to the Catholic radio, it never gets old.
No.
It's always, like you said, a lot more people have a lot more difficult problems. Just like you said, the war. It's just it never gets old. You're hungry for more.
One of the callers said the world often views issues in black and white. Catholic talk radio views them in color. There's it's the same subject. There's just a lot more to it.
Right.
Last night they were discussing. There is a priest. I forget what country he's from, but he believes Vladimir Putin is possessed, and he's praying. He's basically doing like an exorcism on Vladimir Putin, praying the evil out of him. Now, whether you believe that or not, I guess is up to you, but you're not going to hear that anywhere else.
No.
And of course, praying for our leadership can never hurt.
Right.
And pray for our own leadership and stuff, and we'll see where this whole thing goes. But it's when I turn the radio off, I find myself still thinking about what I heard.
Right.
And then going, I can't wait to share this with my kids on Wednesday night. And I don't hear that when I listen to country music.
No, you don't.
And stuff. I just hear about how big my truck tires are and how much horsepower it's got, and yeah.
I get where you're coming from. Yep.
So,
And like Jesus said, pray for your enemies, pray for those who persecute you.
Absolutely.
I mean, where do you hear that? You don't hear that anywhere else either.
No.
So
No.
I get.
Absolutely. Last night they were also discussing what is a just war. The Catholic Church has a definition of a just war. There is a time when we should pick up arms and fight back. And it's pretty hard to figure out all that, but they're actually looking at the fact there is a time when to actually pick up arms and push back and fight back against evil.
Right.
And of course, basically, if you've exhausted every other option, that would be it. And like I said, I'm not a theologian. I'm not, but they were actually dissecting it. They spent about 20 minutes talking about that. What does the church actually say about this? Because it's got 2,000 years of history on these subjects.
Right.
So how long has CNN been around? About 30?
35 years. Yeah.
2,000 years versus 35 years. I'm going over here to 2,000 years.
Right.
So anyway.
All right.
Yep.
Well, thank you for sharing that. Really great.
It was fun to be a part of. It was
Yeah.
fun to be a part of. And we've had some technical challenges. The tower's about 500 feet out into a field. I volunteered to keep the road open going into there. And in August, that seemed like a good idea. This winter's been quite a challenge, but it was fun to be part of. We've had to bring a few technicians in there to get things reset and back on the air. The signal drops off, it won't come back up.
Sure.
And I've learned more about radio than I ever thought I would know.
Right.
It was one day I was at the station in the little building at the bottom of the station, and I was on the phone with the technician, and he said, press this button, press this knob, press this, flip this. And I said, is there anything here I shouldn't touch? And he said, yeah, those big cables on your left-hand side, don't touch those. You're going to feel like you got kicked by a mule. And I says, oh, okay, I understand. So yeah, it's pretty interesting to see how radio works. But
I
yes.
bet.
Check it out. Check it out. Catholic Talk Radio, 1070 AM or 101.3 FM. So
All right. So, like I said, I listened to it. It's a great way to spend more time learning about Catholicism and just spending more time with God as well. Now, we talked about Level Radio and Father Walkie and everything, and your son, who I graduated with a couple years ago, is in the seminary
it's
right
in the
now.
seminary, yes.
So that's huge, great news. And the way we've been talking a lot, he's still wanting to be a priest.
That's right.
So I guess the only question I have is, how is he liking it? How is it going? How do you feel? And that kind of stuff.
Okay. Well, great. Yes, as a parent, I am very, very proud. I have a
Right.
son that is in seminary. They tell you right off the bat, we're not going to make your son a priest. We're here to help him discern if this is his calling. They tell you that right up front. They also tell us about a third to half of the young men that enter seminary discern out, and they're fine with that. They go on to become great Catholic fathers and husbands. But Jack is in his second year. He's discerned that he wants to keep going. He kind of had an annual review here recently, and they don't just let anybody go through the seminary that wants to. They don't, kind of like the Sound of Music. This is not a spot to come hide from reality. If you have a different calling, you need to go pursue that. So Jack had like an annual review, for lack of a better term. He said he sits in front of like 5 priests, and they kind of pick him apart a little bit. But he said that went really, really well, and he wants to continue on. He wants to keep going, and I'll just tell you, as a parent having a child in seminary, I couldn't be prouder. When your kid's in seminary, you're very proud of him. The sad part is they kind of take your kid away, and they tell you that we're going to kind of take your kid away, and so it's tough. We don't get to see him a whole lot. He gets home, I guess if you average out about once every other month, he comes home for the weekend.
Okay.
The strange thing about that is he really doesn't want to always come home. He would just as soon stay there and focus on his studies and keep the routine going.
Right.
They're very into routine. Seminary has been kind of an education for us. It's kind of like a spiritual boot camp. Those guys are in training. They're training. Their day starts with they get up at like 5:30, 6 a.m., a 1 hour holy hour right off the bat, and then they have mass together, then they eat breakfast together, then they're basically a regular college campus student at St. Thomas. Then in the evening they get back together and they have supper, and then they have evening prayer, and then they go ahead and do their studies. But very into the routine. Jack said it's actually quite relaxing.
Okay.
You don't have to plan your day. It's been planned for you.
Right.
And not a lot different than like a monastery.
Sure.
The routine is very important. So when I want Jack to come home and help me stack wood for the weekend, it kind of messes with his routine, as you can imagine.
Yeah, I can. Well, it's good that he says it's relaxing because, I mean, some people, I'm not trying to put this in a bad way, but they might think it's not going to be relaxing because you got 8 years to become a priest and you got a lot of stuff to learn about Catholicism.
Sure.
So it's not going to be relaxing. And like I said, I'm not trying to put it in a bad way, but that's what probably maybe some people think.
Oh, it's no different than trying to become a doctor
Right.
or a physician or physical therapist or something like that. Yeah, I think it's very much so kind of walk a mile, see a mile
Right.
kind of a deal. Jack says if you look at the big picture all the time, you just get discouraged. But yeah, he said, so I had to drive down and actually check out the seminary so I understood kind of how it worked. I never understood. The seminary, St. John's Vianney Seminary, is basically a fancy dorm building on the St. Thomas campus. That's basically what it is. And they have a chapel inside their dorm building.
Okay.
Which, by the way, they just closed the chapel. They're going to be demoing it and building them a new one, a bigger one. So, yeah, so if you drove past St. Thomas, unless you're looking specifically for the St. John's Vianney Seminary, you wouldn't see it. There's about 88 guys that live in the seminary. The first 4 years are at St. John's Vianney. The second 4 years are across the street at St. Paul's Seminary. That's the second 4 years.
Okay.
So there's basically about 22 guys in each year of formation. And they're not all from the St. Cloud Diocese. They're from all over the country. Chuck said that's interesting to meet guys from downtown Chicago, from the hood,
Right.
and meet guys from Montana. And there was one dude that was a truck driver before he went to seminary. Just all these different walks of life that
I bet.
people. But he said it's good. And there's some you can tell that really struggle with it. The academic part is heavy. Some of them it's not very easy. Jack, fortunately, is an academic kid. He just loves it. Bigger and thicker the books, the happier he is. He didn't get that from me, I can tell you that.
Okay.
But yeah, he likes it. Will he become a priest someday and get ordained? I certainly hope so. If he doesn't, that's okay too. You know,
Right.
Sacred Heart Church has not had a priest from this church since 1976, if I'm not mistaken. Father Lauren German, who just retired.
Okay.
So as a church, we really haven't done our job as far as producing priests. Okay?
Yep.
So it would be great, for my son Jack to be one of the first priests to come out of our church here in a long, long time. That'd be wonderful.
That would be really wonderful.
Yep, that'd be. Plus, I mean, he's a classmate of yours.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, I know that guy.
I used to play baseball with him in high school. He used to be my first baseman and catcher, But no, I would have to agree. I mean, it's great that he's liking the epidemic
Yep.
part. That's where I'm kind of hesitant on it because I'm not so good
Mhm.
on that. So that's where I'm still kind of going through the motions and just deciding if that is right for me down the road.
Right.
If because I'm still up and down my career plan. But yeah, it's really nice that he's in it, and like you said, hopefully he becomes a priest. If not, that's fine. That's not where God wants him.
Yeah.
But
Well, the academic part, on my phone every day I have an app. I get Saint of the Day and the readings for the day on my phone every morning I go through. And if you read about Saint of the Day, a lot of priests really struggled with the academic part. They really did. But they were able to work through it. I get it. Some people that comes easier than others. But if you want to do it, like Jack said, he goes, He goes, if you enjoy and find interesting what you're learning,
Right.
it makes it all the better,
Right.
you know.
It
And yeah, but like I said, he's always been into books and reading and knowledge and this and that, and kind of asking tough questions and where it goes. I mean, I can handle a little bit, but after a while, I'm like, dude, you're way over my head,
Yeah.
you know.
Yep.
But
I remember that when we were in faith formation. He was always the guy who was asking questions, talking, and I mean, I learned a lot from him just sitting there, just listening, and his perspective and what his ideas and what he knew, and asking questions, and
yeah,
I was really happy to be in the same room as him. I didn't really talk much, but I didn't really talk much anyway. But he was really passionate about it.
always.
And you could tell he really wanted to be a priest, or he was, hoping to be a priest.
Well, just to kind of tell you what kind of kid Jack was growing up. When he was about 10 years old, I was driving him to school one morning. Didn't drive him to school every morning, but I was driving him to school this one morning. And I don't know, I'm probably thinking about work or something somebody said, or my coffee's the wrong temperature, something really important like that. So I'm driving along, and Jack's in the back seat, and he goes, "Hey, Dad." So what, Jack? He goes, "If Jesus was here on this earth, do you think he'd embrace technology, or would he reject it?" And I'm like, well, gosh, let me swerve my truck back onto the road here. And, it's like, wow, for a 10-year-old to come up with that.
Right.
And that's just the kind of kid he's always been, asking those kinds of questions. And of course, the answer is kind of a both and.
Right.
But, for a 10-year-old to come up with that, and like I said, one thing that really got Jack interested in the faith is when he was probably 4 or 5 years old, I went to a Christian bookstore in Brainerd. It's now closed. And they had a Bible there that was written in a cartoon format. It was like an animated Bible,
Okay.
and it had a lot of really cool pictures. It was great. And Jack would carry that with him everywhere, reading those stories in that Bible. Jonah and the whale, there's this huge looking whale like a sea monster that shows him swallowing Jonah, just...
Right.
And I remember as a kid, I think he still got it. I mean, it's all wore out and shot, and the cover's all messed up, but that's just the kind of kid he was. He was always interested in that stuff.
Nice.
But, yeah, so he did not take that Bible to seminary with him, but
Right.
he still got it.
He still got it. Nice. Okay.
Yep. So, yeah.
Okay. Well, I appreciate the update.
Mm-hmm.
Continue to pray for him, and pray everyone watching this, keep them in your prayers too, because like you said, we haven't had a priest from, at least Sacred Heart, this church here, since
Mhm.
'76, and that was a while ago.
That was a while ago.
So-
Yep.
And we were short on priests, and we always can use more priests.
Right.
So-
Absolutely. No.
Now he's not like you say. He was involved in the faith early. He wanted to learn about the faith and that stuff. The last topic we want to discuss is your kind of conversion story. Now, did he get from you? Can I just ask this real quick, or do you think he just came up?
Well, somewhat.
Did you talk about the conversion story to him, and he kind of, or?
I guess myself. I'm a cradle Catholic. I grew up. I was baptized in this church right here. Actually married in this church right here. I've always enjoyed being around the church. I like people. I just know how I'm wired. When I walk into a room full of people, I just feel like I want to go talk to every single one of them. That's just how I'm wired. There was always fun people at church to talk to.
Right.
Did I understand every part of the faith all my life? Not necessarily, but I've kind of figured out along the way. My wife comes from a family of Lutheran ministers and psychologists, so I'm sure Jack got the academic part from her side of the family.
Sure.
And I just turned 50. I got 4 kids. My youngest is 14. I always figured raising my kids, I didn't want to do all the work myself. So I always got my kids around other good people.
Right.
My folks, my sisters, my in-laws, my church people, friends, other good people that would influence my kids. And otherwise you have to try to be the perfect parent. And that's really hard.
Right.
And so getting my kids around other good people, yeah, Jack as a young man would kind of stay behind and ask questions of Father about his homily, or he'd ask a deacon about something. And like I said, they're good people. I wanted my children to be around them,
Right.
you know, and just keep planting that seed. And of course, in my folks and my sisters and anybody that's been around us who's not Catholic will tell us we talk about our Catholic faith way too much. I don't think that that's possible personally,
No, probably not.
but sometimes it can come across as maybe we're a little bit arrogant or something. But we're just excited about our faith.
Right.
You know, you talk about him that's passionate about baseball. You're like, the guy drives me nuts. He talks about his baseball. Well, I'm excited about my faith, so I talk about my faith a lot. But back to you mentioned my conversion story. I don't have like, if I look at a timeline, I don't have a specific point where I had a major conversion story. I've had little bumps in there, little things that go, aha.
Sure. Right.
If I did have a conversion point, probably the biggest one would be when I was probably about 24, 25 years old. I got to a point in my life where it's like, okay, God, I'm going this way or I'm going this way. And this is it. I'm going to make a decision right now. And so I felt the calling to go into seminary. I already owned a house and had a few other things going and this and that. And it was not going to be easy because I'm not an academic. I've never been to any type of college. I've went to tech school, but that really doesn't count.
Right.
Basically, I'd be doing all 8 years. And people talk about, oh, it's just a peaceful, easy feeling. No, not for me. No, this is not sleeping at night, this and that. But I says, okay, if this is what you want me to do, God, I'll go ahead and do it. And I remember I told Father Lauren that I was thinking about seminary, and I told my folks I was thinking about seminary. I wasn't going to fight it anymore. And then about 3 weeks later, I met my wife, who I've been married to for 23 years now and got 4 kids with. I think God has a sense of humor. I think he does. I tell people, I've told my 9th grade kids, actually I told every religious ed class I have, I think in some weird way, unless I had submitted to that calling, I don't know if I'd have met my spouse. You know, because she was from out of town.
Sure.
I went to a place I normally don't go to just on a whim, and we bumped into each other and our paths crossed, and of course, the rest is history. But I don't know if that would have happened if I had just kept fumbling along saying, well, whatever it is, you know, and because I was ready to make a decision. You get to a point in your life, it's like, okay, we're going to draw a line in the sand here, and we're going to go this way or that way. And I was ready for that. And I was ready for that. For a while, I wondered if I had missed my calling. Thought maybe I was supposed to go to seminary. I don't have it anymore. That went away years ago. You know, you always second guess yourself.
Right.
You know, my thought was, if I'm supposed to go to seminary and I don't, will I have a shot at heaven if I miss my calling? If I'm supposed to get married and I go to seminary, would I be a bad priest? Well, now I know it doesn't quite work like that. It doesn't work like that. You kind of grow where you're planted and do the best with what you got. Is there people out there, or is there men out there that could have made great husbands as well as great priests? Probably. Where's God going to use you to the most potential? I don't know. That's not for me to figure out. You know, yeah, there's certainly parts of being a priest that I would have thoroughly enjoyed. There's other parts I probably wouldn't have.
Right.
But talk to anybody who's married, they'll tell you the same thing.
Yep.
You know, the biggest thing, I guess, is be open to God's will, whatever that is. And of course, with me, probably the biggest thing is I'm not very patient. Let's get going here.
Right.
You know, that's it. And of course, God's timing is not our timing.
Right.
So But if you know, I don't have this great grandiose conversion story, but if I did pinpoint one thing, that would be it. And then of course there's little things that come along, the birth of your children, and of course, well, getting married and then the birth of your children, and some of those kinds of things. And now I got 2 of my 3 sons are going to be getting married, and that's interesting to think about, and just and as things go on, I find my faith is that taproot that I rely on more and more and more, and like I said, little things like the ACC and all the friends I've made at other churches, and Catholic Talk Radio, and listening to Saint of the Day, all those things add to it to make it better.
Right.
Do I need them? Yeah, maybe, but they all add to it to make it better.
Right.
But yeah.
Well, I appreciate it coming from a 21-year-old who's almost kind of in the same place you were, so I'm really thankful for that, because I do want that some days too. It's like, did I miss something? Am I going to miss something? Like, what is happening? So, but yeah, thank you for clearing that up, because
Yep.
yeah.
I always think of Father Greg Masty. So Father Greg Masty and I are about the same age. I knew Father Greg Masty when he was in seminary. Didn't know him real well, but I always remember he said that when he was feeling called to be a priest, because he was going to go to school to be a game warden, when he was feeling called to be a priest and he decided to go and go to seminary, he was prepared to give up everything that he loved doing, everything, to become a priest. And then he kind of chuckled and said, you know what's funny? He says, I probably hunt and fish more than any other guy I know, because he was willing to give it up.
Right.
But now as a priest, of course, he's got some years under his belt, he's figured out how to fit it in and make it work. And I've even heard he does confessions in the fish house, which I think would be pretty cool.
That would be pretty cool, huh? Man.
But like I said, he was willing to give it up. And my story is probably not quite as powerful, but at one point I'm like, okay, whatever you want me to do, I'll do. But I don't want to just keep doing what I've been doing. I was single and I was 25. I didn't mind being single, but I knew I had a bigger something I should be doing.
Right.
And yeah, so that's just it. But stay faithful, pray your rosary. I did something that's recently changed. I pray in my truck a lot. I drive. I'm a sales guy. I drive a lot. The cab of my truck's kind of become a mini sanctuary in a way, because I'm on the road. If I'm not listening to Catholic Talk Radio, I'm doing something church related.
Right.
A conventional rosary was clumsy. I got a finger rosary and had it blessed. Oh my gosh, that is the greatest thing ever. I got them laying all over. It's on the dash of my truck. I can't miss it. I got one in my office. A finger rosary is the greatest thing ever.
Really?
And it doesn't get tangled up in the blinker or the gear shifter when you're turning. And so that's kind of a silly thing, but I lost it for a while. Boy, was I relieved when I found it.
I bet.
But so anyway.
All right.
Yeah. Well,
I think that's a good way to end it, folks. Like Jay said, pray and just keep loving the faith. Keep doing what you do.
go to Mass.
Go to Mass.
Even when you don't feel like it.
Even though if you're still worried about COVID or stuff, go to Mass.
That's right.
I mean, like I said, I might do a show about my experiences with COVID and stuff like that, but one of the weirdest things I have ever felt being Catholic was going back to Mass after we got the okay from COVID.
Boy, we really took it for granted, didn't we?
We sure did. So
Once they finally opened those church doors, that was like, yes.
Yes, you can watch it sitting at home, but it's not the same. You have
It's
to
not the
come.
same.
You have to come to Mass and worship as we gather together as one in the church, and you get to see people like Jay, who you might not seen for a while. So,
Okay.
Jay,
Well,
thank you for coming on the show.
thanks for having me, Billy. It's been fun.
So,
It's been.
It's the first in-person interview, so I'm glad it worked out finally.
It's excellent. Thank you. It's enjoyable.
Jay Tyrell there, folks. Billy Sabler. God bless you. God willing. We'll see you next time at Catholic Table Talk Podcast, where everything Catholic is on the table. And go to church.